You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the only one media group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hey, I am your host, dini-mussolini, and there are over 5,200 of you guys on the phone lines with us tonight. What is up? I'm so glad that you guys are here with us on another awesome episode, right? Oh yeah, so now it's that time where we give you the word of the day, right? So, something to look forward to. Have you ever noticed what happens right before you're going on a long-awaited vacation? If you're like most people, you are bulletproof. Nothing gets you down. You cheerfully work harder than usual to get things ready for your trip and to arrange for everything to continue so smoothly while you are gone. In fact, for many people, the day before leaving on vacation is often the most productive day that they've had all year. How strange is that? You say, why, Denny? Why is that? Well, for one thing, you have to get the work done. You have a sense of urgency. It won't wait until tomorrow. So you're extremely motivated in that regard. You also have a light at the end of the tunnel type of thing, you know that tomorrow you'll be relaxing on the beach or hiking through the mountains, and that is enough to keep you going at a high level of energy and, just plain enjoyment, right? Wouldn't it be great if every day could be just like that? Just think how much you would accomplish. When you think about it, the day before vacation is no different than any other day. The only thing that makes it different is your attitude. Guess what? You, listener, friends, vigilantes, you are in complete control of your attitude. So, if you really want, you can feel that way every day. The trick is, it is to find something exciting and inspiring to look forward to. Yes, a vacation is great, but you can't do that every day. That's where your goals come into play. What is your life's dream? What excites you, motivates you, inspires you more than anything else? Whatever it is, you need to constantly remind yourself of it. Keep it at the front of your mind. Know that everything you are doing is leading to that goal. And it may take years. Yeah, years. But keep at it. Goals are really important for what they are. So much as for what they help you become, who you become. In fact, reaching your goal is not nearly as important as what you do and what you become in the process. We are goal-seeking creatures. We need something to strive for, to look forward to. Provide that for yourself, and every day it can be joyous and productive. Take it from me, dini-mussolini. That is my word, and word is bond.
You're live in the mix. Let's get this started.
Yo, hello and welcome to another awesome episode of Inside the Music or Inside the Book. Inside the Business, where we dive into the minds of the people who create marvelous things. It feels so good to be back with you guys once again. So one time for my people who are indigos, crystalline or starseeds, or for my Vigilantes audience family, and 2 times for my people who are vegetarian or vegans. If you're like me, we are averaging over 37,000 live listeners, and we've been at this for 4 solid years. I appreciate all you guys who've been rocking with the kid on this journey, and we are still evolving, baby. It is all because of you, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, spirituality, business, literature, art, movies, and research in every aspect, and we want to allow you an opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on our show, from Grammy Award winning artists to nominees to actors, comedians, CEOs, technology geniuses, visual artists, from authors to professors and aliens. Or people think they're aliens. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Come on our show and talk to me. So check it out. To book an interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. And that's V as in Victor. I'm passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do. And together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people who should hear it. So let's create something incredible. You know the number to dial: 701-801-9813. Text that number to your buddy right now and tell them to tune in to connect with us or our guests, or you can hop in the mix directly from our website, onlyonemediagroup.com. Right from the homepage, you can slap that go live button and you'll be right here live in the mix and in the chat room with all of us. Feel free to shoot over some questions to ask our guests while they are here, but only as time permits. Sometimes my guests and I talk entirely too much and we take up the entire hour. And as always, all episodes are available for free download, and you can grab that from either Spreaker.com/Only One Media Group, iTunes, YouTube, or any app from the Google Play or iTunes Store, or over at our website. And that goes for every single episode that we ever aired.
Well, tonight's episode is the Andy-Waddell interview, and I am your host. If you haven't guessed it already, I am Dini-Mussolini. It's always an excellent experience to talk to artists that are clearly inspired by what they create. Oh yeah. So lots of love for the skill and the heart behind the music of Andy Waddell. So come on, vigilantes and hooligans, take a chill pill, sit back and check out what Andy Waddell has to say about his music and what he's all about. Let's find out what we are getting ourselves into tonight. So with that, let's go ahead and invite him onto the show. Andy, you're now live in the mix with all of us. How is it going and how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
Man, I am blessed by the best. Can't complain. A little under the weather, but besides that, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just to warm things up, man, how's the weather in California right now?
Windy. It's been real windy all day, and it's terrible, man. I'm having a bad hair day.
Oh,
all
man.
Because of that. I can't get my hair to stay down. It's all standing up. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But, besides that, it's all right. The temperature is okay, but it's just real dry and windy.
Yeah, and you have great hair, by the way. And guys, if you don't believe me, look at the graphics of the show. Look at that hair. Wow. That's like superstar hair right there, right?
Not today, though.
Not today, oh, man.
Not today, man. It's out of control.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we're going to jump right on in and dive deep, man. So we're honored to have you here on our podcast. Of course, thank you so much for sharing your time and thoughts with us. And though we know that you're still somewhat new to some of us, I've read about you and research and know this is an exciting time for you. You got a fresh album out, The Road to Nowhere, which is a very interesting title, by the way. And that was released in November, correct?
That is right. November 10th.
November 10th. Cool deal. We'll get to that. We'll get into the meat of what that record is all about. And it seems, though, as the road to getting here where you're at now was not an easy one. So let's start with your bio, surviving in life. How did it all start? The history, the high, the lows. How did they all lead to where you are now?
Well, I started out playing music when I was a young kid. I was luckily, that my parents put me, they weren't okay with us just like sitting around the house and going to school and coming home. So, we had to have some sort of extracurricular activity. And so starting real young, probably when I was like in maybe first grade or something, I started taking piano lessons, and I did that for years, like throughout elementary school. And, so I had that going for me where I, was raised with music from a young age. And then I started playing the trombone actually after that. That was my second instrument. I picked that up in the 6th grade and actually continued to play that all the way through junior high and high school. And then I started playing guitar around the end of junior high, kind of the end of junior high, going into high school. And once I picked up the guitar, man, that was it. Everything, all my other hobbies like playing video games, snowboarding, whatever. I mean, actually, I just put it all down. Actually, it was crazy because I remember when I got my first guitar, like my first electric guitar, for Christmas in 9th grade, and because I started playing guitar, learning from a guitar I found in the attic that my dad had. My dad played a little bit of guitar, just simple stuff, strumming chords. I remember him playing, he played like for the kids in Sunday school at church and stuff, and nothing serious. But he had this old guitar up in the attic, and I got that down, and it was actually missing the first string. So the first like 6 months or so that I was playing, or however long it was, I was playing just like on a 5-string guitar because there was something wrong with it where every time you try to put a new string on it, it would just snap the string. So I just learned without the string, and anyway, and then fast forward to the Christmas when I finally got my first guitar. It was a terrible looking guitar. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, of course, I was very young, but for people who are familiar with guitars, it was a BC Rich guitar. Some of those are really cool, if you're into metal and stuff like that. But I had this pretty wacky, like bright blue colored guitar, and I thought it was really cool. I had picked it out and stuff. But anyway, I maybe just like a week after that, because I think it was still like on Christmas break, I went snowboarding with a friend and I broke my arm, and then I couldn't play for months after that. That was really disappointing. But anyway, I ran with it once I got better. I mean, that's all that I did. And then, video games and any other hobby that I had before that was out. I was all about music. And, so I started off just, playing songs from, bands and stuff that I liked. And, luckily I had already had a jazz background because, my dad, I grew up listening to jazz. My dad was really much into jazz and a lot of other stuff too, classic rock and a lot of other things. But anyway, and I was fortunate that I went to a school district that had a really great music program. So, I started playing jazz in 7th grade because I played jazz band in the junior high school. And then I kept playing trombone and jazz band in high school, but, at the time that's why I was learning guitar. So then, I got serious about guitar, really quickly. And, and then I started taking lessons and stuff and transferring my knowledge of jazz onto the guitar. And then I played guitar and jazz band through my last couple of years of high school, and then went on to keep studying music in college. I went to USC for a little while, and I actually didn't end up graduating because I, for a lot of different reasons, but was about 3 semesters away from graduating. I dropped out because I just wanted to play, man. Yeah. I just wanted a gig, and I wanted to, the way I looked at it at the time, I saw these people getting their degrees and going on to become teachers and stuff. I'm like, man, I don't want to be a full-time teacher and all that. So I want to keep growing as a player, and, I want to be the greatest that I could possibly be. And at that time, I was practicing for 6 to 8 hours a day, and that's all I wanted to do. So I felt like, the classes and all the work that I had to do for school was just taken away from me, practicing. so, my private studies in college, I studied with some really great players, because USC actually has one of the greatest jazz programs in the country, and they have, they don't anymore, but at the time, they had a separate department for guitar. It was called the Studio Jazz Guitar Department. They had some really great, legendary jazz players like Bruce Foreman, who I got to study with. He's an amazing jazz guitarist.
Nice.
And Frank Potenza and Pat Kelly, and these great guys like that I got to study with. And that was all really good. There's more the book work and stuff that I, wasn't so much into. But anyway, so I went on after that, and I just started gigging professionally. I started gigging right out of high school, and I was doing that through college and stuff, and then I just kept doing that after college, playing with different people, and then I went on to, I recorded my first album. I think I put that out in 2013, and that was a jazz album called Sunset to Seven. And then I put out my second one a year after that in 2014, I believe, and that was called Alive. And that was all original music, just like the first one. They're both, original stuff that I had written, and I, put together like an all-star band, really great, Los Angeles musicians and stuff. And it was like a dream come true to do it, especially the second one, because the guys that I had on that, I had a piano player named Josh Nelson, who was, I remember being really inspired by him. Like when I was younger, I remember seeing him play, and, he's kind of a big name, in the LA area and stuff. And, so having him on my record and stuff was really cool. And, so I got to do some stuff like that. And, so I did a lot of arranging and a lot of composing and stuff for myself and for other artists as well. And, so anyway, leading up to my current project, The Road to Nowhere, after I put out the Alive album, I kind of hit a wall. I got really, really depressed, and it wasn't really any certain life situation or anything that I got down about. It's just I came to realize later, that I had some mental issues, bipolar and depression and stuff like that, and I didn't really realize that I, was suffering from those things earlier, and I guess it just hit me really hard around that time, and I kind of just crashed down, and all of a sudden I didn't really want to play music anymore. I was just like, man, I'm done with this. I'm going to do something else with my life, and, and really at that time, it was, wasn't about doing something else with my life. I just decided to do absolutely nothing, so I just put everything down and kind of went in a downward spiral, and leading up to The Road to Nowhere, I, about 6 months in, I was really heavily into my depression and addiction and stuff like that. And, I was on the verge of, losing my apartment. I was like right on the verge of being homeless, and, had absolutely really nothing good going on in my life. And so I picked up the guitar again one night, about after 6 months. Hadn't touched it, hadn't thought about music or anything. I picked it up, and I wrote a song, and it's actually the first song on the record. It's called Starry Eyes, and that was the first time, the first creative thing that came out of me in all this time. And it was, and I don't know, I can't even explain, where it came from or how I wrote it or anything like that, because I was just, I don't know, it just kind of came out, and which was weird because, usually when I pick up the guitar, I'd start playing jazz tunes or, improvising and stuff like that. But for some reason, I just started writing this kind of folk rock sort of tune, and I put lyrics to it, and I was singing with it and all that stuff, and that was a new thing for me. I don't consider myself a singer at all. I had done some singing in my career in the past, in some different bands and stuff, like, top 40 bands and things like that, background, light background vocals, but never any lead vocals or anything like that. So, but, the stuff that I had been listening to at the time, through that period when I wasn't playing, I was listening to a lot of like singer-songwriter type stuff. Like I got really into Elliott Smith, who's one of my, I mean, I was into him before that, but he's, you know, one of my true heroes when it comes to songwriting. And I was listening to people like Elliott Smith and Sufjan Stevens, who's another great songwriter. And I also love, you know, the old stuff. Like I love Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel and stuff like that. You know, so I was just, because I didn't want to, you know, at the time I wasn't listening to any jazz because I felt like, you know, my heart was just kind of broken, you know, by, I don't know, like jazz, just like, because that was always what I loved, you know, playing jazz and creating, improvising and all that stuff. You know, that was what made me feel alive before. And then all of a sudden now, for some reason, at that point, I didn't want to do that anymore. So I didn't want to listen to jazz. I didn't want to hear it or anything. So I was just listening to a lot of songwriters and stuff like that. And that music was really healing for me. And, so I think that's what led to it. And anyway, so I wrote the song Starry Eyes, and it just came out really naturally, you know, and I think for the first time in my life, you know, I wasn't trying to prove anything by playing or by creating. You know, I feel like especially, you know, in the jazz world, you know, it's really competitive, and, you know, it's all about, you know, having the most chops, and you can play the best solo and you know, things like that, and so you always kind of, as a jazz musician, you always kind of gotta prove yourself, you know, because you go on a new gig, you know, on a gig that you've never done before with a band you've never played with before. You got to prove yourself. You got to show that you're great, so you get hired again. And, you know, every time performing, and a lot of this was probably in my head too, just because I was so hard on myself. You know, I wanted to be, you know, I wanted to be the best, you know, and it's like every time I played, it's like I had to start over from scratch again. I had to prove myself, at least prove myself to myself all over again, and prove my worth. And, you know, and if I didn't play, you know, the best that I possibly could, I'd be like really depressed about it, you know. So there was, even though I loved playing jazz and all that, you know, it was kind of, you know, imprisoning in a way too, just because how hard on myself I was about it. So finding this new way of expression was just really liberating, because for the first time I'm creating music, not because I'm trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm not trying to show anybody that I'm great. I'm not trying to, you know, get a gig or impress anybody. I'm just writing something that feels natural and something that makes me feel better. And I'm expressing myself in a way that, you know, that I can put my feelings out there, and you know, it felt really good. So that kind of got me on a whole new inspiration. It was like, man, I wrote another song after that, and then another one, and I just wrote all these songs, and it didn't take me a long time to write them. I'd write them, you know, over the course of a few hours or something, in an afternoon or an evening, and you know, it's just, and that was just on an acoustic guitar, and my voice, and that's it. And you know, it was just a really, really different experience for me, and you know, but I liked it a lot. So you know, around that time, you know, I was, like I said, I was on the verge of being homeless. So, you know, I made the choice to go into a treatment program and, you know, get myself clean. And I did that. And then, you know, while I was in rehab, I pretty much wrote the rest of the songs on the road to nowhere. And, you know, so I was in a lot of pain at the time, but, you know, that was like my only outlet, you know, that made me feel better. And, so anyway, you know, I got out of treatment, and then I figured, all right, so I might as well record this stuff, you know, and that's the crazy thing too, because like I didn't write like all the music that I had written before this, and you know, I had done with intent to record it or to do something serious with it. and this stuff I didn't write. That was never my intention when I was writing any of these songs, was to record an album or to put it out there for anybody to hear. It's just, I just did it for myself. But, after seeing like how they turned out, I was like, man, I might as well record these. Why not? So again, I was just going to record them, nothing serious. I called up a friend of mine. His name's Ben Burgett, and he's got a real nice studio and stuff. He's a great musician himself. He plays a lot of different wind instruments, and he plays piano and a bunch of other stuff. And anyway, so I had done some recordings and stuff at his place, and we have a lot of mutual friends and stuff. So I hit him up to just lay down some of my songs, and so we started out with just the acoustic guitar and my vocals, and that was that's all it was. But then, we decided, he's like, hey, why don't we add more stuff to this? So and then, we just went on we added bass and drums, and, we put our heads together to hire some really great musicians. All the musicians on there are like top-notch LA players. And anyway, so we tracked the bass and drums after that. And then, all right, so now let's do the electric guitars. And so, the whole process of recording that album, it was actually, it actually took about 2 years to record. It was a long time, because it was just layering one thing after another, and just watching it evolve was just such a cool experience, because, the compositions that I had done prior to this, I had like a full vision in mind, because I would write all the parts for all the instruments, and I know what it's going to sound like before I bring it to a band to play it, or before I record it or anything like that. I've got it in my head. But this just evolved into something pretty epic, because it was let's see where we can take this. Let's add more. And so recording the electric guitars, that was a blast, because I hired another guy on the scene. His name's Matt Hornbeck. He's a great guitar player, and kind of hired him as my guitar tech, because before this I was pretty much a jazz Nazi, so I didn't have all the appropriate equipment and to get all the sounds that I would need to record something more rock based. And we did a lot of there's a lot of different crazy sounds and effects and stuff like that I didn't have. So I hired him, and recording the electric guitars was just such a blast, because we were just basically, he brought all his gear, all his guitars and amps and stuff, and then we set all that up. And then when it came down to recording each song, we're just like handing the guitar back and forth. He'd play some parts, I'd play some parts, and we're just kind of creating the parts on the spot. And that was just really cool. Like, we both really learned a lot from each other, and it was just a really, really fun experience. So, and then we did that, and then my friend Dan Kaneyuki, who's a amazing saxophone player. I actually grew up with him. We went to junior high and high school together, and we still work together. As he's a professional now as well. And so we still work together a lot over the years, and we've remained friends. And he decided to co-produce the record with me, and so we got together, me and him, and arranged all these really in-depth harmonies, vocal harmonies. So like 3 and 4 part harmonies, that are direct harmonies along with the lyrics, along with like oohs and ahs, sort of patty type vocals going for that. And we laid all that down. That part was a blast too. And then, the last thing was, we're like, all right, well, we might as well add strings now. So brought in my friend Jeff Stradling, who's a piano player, great, arranger and composer. And he arranged all the string parts. So he did that for about, I think we had strings on about 7 of the songs. There's 12 songs on the record in total. And he brought in a string quartet, so 2 violins, a viola, and a cello, and we tracked all that, over those songs. And then, before you know it, now we've got, on some of these songs, we've got like 20 or 30 different guitar tracks, plus like 20 vocal tracks, you know, the bass and drums, all kinds of pianos, keyboards, and strings, and you know, so there's a lot on there. So yeah, so that was, but you know, that by the end of that, you know, now the recording process is pretty much done. Then the mixing was a whole different thing. We sent it to a guy in Nebraska, and his name is Rick Carson, and he mixed the record. And he's actually, you know, I got hooked up with him from Sput Fearride, who's actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Snarky Puppy.
No.
They won a Grammy a couple of years ago. They've been really successful. They're like a kind of like, they're all jazz musicians. It's not jazz music, but it's really like, I don't even know how to describe it, but they're a really incredible group of players. And so Spud is the drummer in that band, and you know, he's had a really successful career himself. He's got like multiple Grammys for producing for Kendrick Lamar, and you know, he's toured with Celine Dion and Snoop Dogg, and you know, he's a pretty heavy cat. And so anyway, he has his own record label, which is RSVP Records, which is the Road to Nowhere came out on RSVP Records. And he's actually a friend of Ben, the recording engineer. So, you know, Ben was showing him, he's like, hey, check out some of the stuff I've been recording. And he showed it to Sput. Sput loved it. And then he contacted me, wanted to put the record out. And then he hooked me up with Rick Carson, who's the mixing engineer, who he mixed it. So I felt sorry for him because, man, there's so much stuff on there to mix, like so many tracks. It was a huge project. So that took about another 6 months probably just to mix it. So, and then there you have it. And then the record's finally done, and now we've got it out to the world, and I'm just really glad to be able to put it out for people to finally hear it, because it's been a long journey.
Yes, sir. Man, that is quite a journey that you had musically as well.
Yeah.
I'm definitely impressed about your dedication to the instruments. I played the trumpet in grade school up through high school. It kind of had like this almost a similar story as yours. Went to college, didn't necessarily graduate. I was majoring in elementary education, and I decided I didn't want to teach kids. Instead I pursued music. So yeah. So man, it's pretty cool though, man. Going back though to how Starry Eyes came to be. And not to get too dark, but do you think that moment in your life was necessary for the time of where you're at now?
Absolutely. I mean, now as crazy as it was, and as painful as it was, you know, I'm really grateful to have gone through it, because without what I went through, I wouldn't have created any of this music. And you know, and I'm really proud of it. And you know, I think for me, it's out of all the, you know, the things that I've done, you know, with my music in my life, this is the project that I'm most proud of, because I put my whole heart and soul into it. It's not just putting my skills into it. It's putting my heart, my soul, and my story. You know, it's everything. You know, so I think it absolutely was necessary, and you know, I don't have any regrets. You know, and don't look back. Just got to move forward, and you know, use the experiences that I've had to grow.
A lot of musical prodigies and geniuses, I think, a lot of them end up down a dark road, and I do consider you a musical prodigy and a genius, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
No doubt. Why do you think that is, though? I mean, like, the top performers, the guy, you know, the talent that we marvel over, they go through the darkest periods of their lives. Why do you think that?
Well, I know that a lot of, I mean, that's a really interesting topic, because I mean, a lot of the most, you know, the greatest artists that have ever lived were just tortured, you know. They're like tortured souls. and I don't consider myself to be like a tortured soul, because, you know, now my life now is great, and, you know, I love my life and all that, but yeah, I definitely went through some dark stuff, and I can tell you that for me it was because I worked so hard at, you know, mastering my craft, and you know, it's a lifelong journey. You know, that's what I love about music, and especially about jazz music, is that, you know, because I'll always, even though this record is not jazz in any sense, you know, but I still consider myself a jazz artist at heart, because that's where my roots are. You know, it's a lifelong journey, and you never stop growing. You know, I learn new things every day. I'm constantly, you know, trying to improve and get better. And, you know, hopefully I'll keep doing that until the day that I die. And, you know, but you have to put, you know, to be what you want to be musically, especially in a genre like that, you have to put a lot of work in, or at least I did. You know, I think, you know, there's some people that it comes really naturally to them. You know, some people have to work harder at it. I don't know. For me, you know, I don't know. I definitely worked really hard at it. I don't feel like I just like picked up the instrument and was like a genius right off the bat. I definitely wanted it, and I worked for it, and I made a lot of sacrifices, you know, and to do that, and I'm grateful that I did that. But, you know, to do that, you know, to be in that mindset, it's like you can drive yourself kind of insane, you know, by putting all that work in, you know, because I was a recluse for many years, you know, like I'm the type of person that, like, I don't, you know, I don't need to be around people. I lived alone for many years, and I preferred that. I didn't feel, you know, it's not like, you know, I was lonely living alone. I was fine living alone. I liked it, you know, but I would, you know, I would spend, you know, days without, you know, like, seeing people sometimes, because I'd just be locked away practicing, and you know, and just like day after day putting all that work in, you know, can kind of drive you insane. At least it did for me, you know, without me really knowing it, because I would work so hard at it. You know, it's like I felt like I needed some sort of, like, release, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, the movie The Shining, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind of how I felt. So, like, I worked so hard that I felt like I needed like to just kind of just forget about it for a while. And that's how I got, you know, addicted to things, because, you know, I was addicted first of all. I mean, first and foremost, was addicted to my music, and addicted to, you know, aspiring for virtuosity. But you know, being addicted to that led me to being addicted to other things, because I had to forget about that for times. And then, you know, eventually, you know, when I hit that bottom of, like, you know, of depression, it was just like go straight towards the other addiction and forget about the other one, you know, because, you know, so I think a lot of it is just because a lot of artists, you know, can work themselves to death to the point of insanity, and you know, and it could drive people mad, and I know that's what happened for me. Yeah. So that's why, you know, I you know, what I was missing in my life for so long was balance. I never had any balance in my life because it was all that. I mean, I always had a hard time, like, you know, little things in life, like tying my shoes, or going to the bank to deposit a check, or, you know, doing the dishes, like things like that for most people are like everyday things that we do. For me, like, I would just, you know, I couldn't, I don't know, I didn't care about any of that stuff. All I cared about was that one thing. So, like, I lived like in filth. Like my car was just, people would ask me if I was living in my car, like when they would see the inside of my car, it was just piled up with trash and stuff. And, and my apartment was a whole nother thing. It was insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's just, working too hard can drive you mad.
Definitely. Who are your influences when you're writing and recording?
Well, for this project, that's an interesting question because obviously like I've explained, I come from a jazz background,
yeah,
so I'm really
genre.
influenced. Yeah, I'm really in. I can't help but have all the stuff that I listen to and that I've studied, come out in whatever genre that I'm writing in, because I have that knowledge of chord theory and all that stuff. So, I've always been really influenced by, you're going to laugh when I say his name, but his name's Kurt Rosenwinkel. He's a jazz guitarist, a New York guitarist, and incredible musician, insane writer and improviser, and just, the way he plays is just, endless, beautiful melodies. And I've always been really inspired by him, and by, I've always been inspired by like Miles Davis and John Coltrane, and Dizzy Gillespie, and the classics too, and contemporary guys like Pat Metheny, and saxophone player that I love named Kenny Garrett. I'm really influenced by that stuff, and then I kind of mesh that with my songwriter influences, which is like I think I mentioned earlier, Elliott Smith is probably my number one songwriter. I just love the way his music is just so haunting, and it's like he has a pretty crazy story himself. And if you're not familiar with him, he committed suicide. He stabbed himself in the chest like 3 or 4 times, and pretty crazy. But his songs are all like, if you listen to the lyrics, it's like really, really depressing. But the way he puts the music to it, I mean, like if you're not paying attention to the lyrics, you're just hearing these like beautiful melodies, and so that's always just been such an inspiration to me, just how he can take something, something maybe sad, but turning it into something beautiful. And
yeah.
so I'm really inspired by him, and by but on the complete opposite spectrum, there's Paul Simon. I love Paul Simon. I love his songs and his melodies. I love the Beatles, and I love and there's another artist that I love named Sufjan Stevens, who same sort of thing, just really, really melodic, beautiful writing. And then I love a lot of the 90s, like, grunge type of stuff, too. Like, I'm really, I think there's a lot of influence in that on my new record, too, is, stuff like, like Nirvana and the Smashing Pumpkins. And, even like I love that stuff, man. I grew up with that stuff. So, that's always going to be, an influence, because I spent so much time listening to it as a kid. And I still listen to that stuff. I love it. And the Foo Fighters and stuff like that. I love all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I can sense a real change, man, like within you, like the inner you. So with that, how does that continue to help drive you to push your music?
Well, I have, I have a different attitude, I just try to be grateful, man, for every opportunity that I have. I looked at it like, man, I've managed to, I'm 31 years old, and I've managed to, my entire adult life been able to get by playing music. And, I'm really lucky to, music has been my life, and I've been able to survive. And I continue, every time, any gig that I have or anything like that, I'm just like, man, this is just a blessing, and like, even though, and it's like, I never wanted to be like a rock star or anything like that, but I had definitely had a different mentality before all this stuff happened, and when I was younger too, like, I used to be really picky about like types of gigs that I would take and stuff, because like, oh, I don't want to do musical theater. I don't want to play with singers. I don't want blah, blah, blah. I was like really picky about the stuff that I would take. So therefore, I didn't work a whole lot. I worked enough to get by, but like, I definitely limited myself because, I just wanted to play the cool jazz gigs, and, but now, man, I take everything that comes my way, and I'm just, even if it's not a, like a super hip gig or something, man, I'm still playing music, so that's a blessing, man. So, I just try to be, I'm just thankful for every opportunity that I have, and I'm thankful for every time, I get to make money playing my instrument.
Yes, sir. All right. So let's chat about your most recent release, which is why we're here, right? Tell me about The Road to Nowhere.
Well, I titled it that because, it's that at the time that I wrote it, I was pretty much on the path. I was on the road to nowhere. So, and that's what really a lot of the songs are about. But they're not all about myself. I think they're just as much. They're just as much about other people going through the same things that I went through as it is about myself. They're not all my stories. It's not all about how like a lot of the songs, actually, I'd say about even half of them are not about what I feel personally. They're about what I perceive other people are feeling. People that were in my life at that time, or people that have been in my life at any point in my life. There's a lot of different people that I wrote about. Like, Starry Eyes, that one's definitely kind of about the push and pull of depression and wanting to, and also kind of the feeling of wanting to give up your dreams and not knowing where to go from there, but there's other songs like the third song on the record is a song called Roscoe, and that's a song about a friend of mine that I went to college with. He's also a guitar player. He's an awesome guitar player himself, and he passed away about 5 years ago, and I remember, because we had kind of lost touch for a while. We were really good friends in college, and we used to party together and all that stuff, and he was always like my number one fan at the time. Like, he really, he wanted to like be able to play jazz and stuff, and he saw me play, and he thought, he thought a lot of me, and and I thought a lot of him too. I mean, he's a great like rock player and stuff like that. He had a lot of things that I wanted as well, but what ended up happening was I remember him calling me, like, we hadn't talked for a while, and he called me, and he was a really heavy drinker. Like, I mean, he was insane. And I remember him calling me, and then he's like, hey, how's it going, man? I asked him how he was doing, and he was telling me that he was sober, and he had been sober maybe for however long. He'd been sober for a certain period of time. And he was like, yeah, man, you should do it too. You should come with me to a meeting and you know, because he could tell that I was on the same path as him. At that time, I had no idea, you know, I was like, no, I don't need any of that, you know, I'm fine, you know, and, you know, but he was doing great. And then, you know, I remember that conversation, and then I remember him calling me a few times after that, but I was just kind of doing my own thing, and I never called him back. And then I remember maybe a year after that, I remember, you know, thinking, hey, well, you know, his name was Ross. Like, hey, you know, I wonder what Ross is doing. I should call him. And then I remember trying to call him. His phone didn't work. And then try to find him on Facebook. And then I, you know, found out that he was dead. You know, so I could see all these things on his Facebook. Rest in peace, Roscoe, and we miss you, and all this stuff. And what happened was, you know, he went back to the dark side, and you know, he broke into his drug dealer's house in the middle of the night and got shot. And then just basically, yeah, you know, so it was just, you know, and I just remember that hitting me really hard, because I remember the last time I heard from him, he was doing great. And, you know, and he wanted to talk to me. He wanted to hang out with me, but I was too busy doing my own thing, and then I missed out on it. And then next time I tried to reach out to him, he's gone. You know, so there's a song about him on there, and then there's also another song called TJ, and that's about another person that was, you know, during the time, you know, that 6-month period that I told you about. She was a person that was really taking care of me through all that. You know, she was a person that was also, you know, had addictions like I did, but, you know, it was crazy because, you know, most people that are addicted to drugs are, you know, not the type that are, you know, they're looking out for themselves. You know, they're looking for what they can get, how they can rob you, and what they can take from you and stuff. But this person was the complete opposite of that. I just remember her, you know, bringing me groceries, you know, giving, you know, she was also like a massage therapist. She would like give, you know, bring her massage table and like give me these massages. I wasn't giving her anything in return. She's just somebody that I met through a friend, and that just like was taking care of me. And I don't know if I would have survived that time, you know, without this person. Right. And you know, so there's a song about her, and there's another song on the record called The Real Jeffrey, that's about, you know, someone that I met in treatment, who was this older man that was, you know, I just felt so bad for him because he was, you know, trying to get his life together, and it was just kind of my perception of him. He was always just, you know, people, you know, everyone else in there is goofing around, telling jokes, and, you know, feeling better about life, and this guy was just always like kind of in a corner, you know, seemed like he was always worried about something. And, you know, and I remember him saying to me, like, I was like, man, are you okay? I don't know, I just keep thinking about death, I keep thinking about all this and that. I'm like, man. And he was on all types of, you know, meds and stuff to try to combat his depression and what he's going through. And, you know, so there's a song about him on there, and you know, so there's a lot of different things like that. And so the songs aren't just about me and my own struggle, but they're about other people's struggles, and people that have, you know, that have kind of also been on the road to nowhere, or are on the road to nowhere, you know, and you know, what I perceive them to be going through and how they deal with it. But I try to, you know, hopefully it is, you know, this all sounds really dark, I know, but you know, the you know, what I would hope, the way that it comes across, is that, you know, these songs don't, you know, shouldn't make, you know, I don't want them to be depressing. You know, there a lot of them, there's a lot of hope sprinkled in there. A lot of them are very hopeful. You know, it's not all just, you know, music to slit your wrists by. There's a lot of hope in there, and you know, and I think, you know, the melodies, you know, speak for themselves. And, you know, I you know, the same way I was describing Elliott Smith, you know, that's my goal with my music is, you know, kind of what I went through with all this is, you know, I had hoped, and I continue to hope, that I created something beautiful out of, you know, something not, you know, something terrible, but create, you know, a beautiful melody out of it, and a beautiful song, or a beautiful story.
Yes, sir. And how long did it take you to put that project together, and why do you feel like it was the perfect time to drop it?
It took, well, I mean, writing the songs was easy. I mean, I wrote all the songs over the course of like a few months, like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But recording it took, you know, by the time I started recording it took over 2 years, probably about 2.5 years by the time we actually put it out. So that was, you know, definitely a learning process for me, because, you know, the way my personality is, you know, is I want everything now. I want it. So it's like, I remember, you know, when I started recording it, I was like, I think I started recording it in April of 2014. And I remember thinking, you know, like, oh, I'm going to put this record out, you know, at the end of the summer, like in August or September. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, 2 years go by and it's still not out. So, you know, I had to be patient, and, you know, because I'm used to, you know, jazz recordings. I've done so many jazz recordings throughout my career, and like jazz recordings are easy, at least in the production wise, you know. Recording jazz music, everything's live in the studio. Mm-hmm. So you can go in the studio to record a jazz record. You spend a couple days in the studio and you're done, and then you mix it, and then you can put it out a couple months later, because there's not that much production that's involved, unless it's a big band record or something where it's like a 15-piece, you know, or 18-piece orchestra or something like that. But I'm talking about, like, you know, small group jazz recordings and stuff like that. I'm used to them. You know, you're in and out. You know, you do a few takes of each tune, and you pick the best take, and then you put them together. You got an album, and then you mix it. And there's not that much to that. You know, there's not a lot of editing or anything like that, because you keep all the mistakes. You know, jazz is not supposed to be perfect. It's, you know, really the mistakes and the imperfections is what makes it what it is.
Right.
You know, just like you hear, like, the old Miles Davis records, you hear him, like, you said you were a trumpet player, right? So you hear him, like, clamming notes left and right, you know, but that's the best part about it, you know? It's like, I wouldn't want it any other way. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a different thing. With something like this, you want it to be perfect, and you want to take your time with it, and you know, so yeah, you know, I didn't rush it, and it just kind of, you know, the way it worked out, you know, after I signed the contract with Sput for RSVP Records, you know, after the, you know, we actually had to push it back a couple times because the mixing took a lot longer than was expected, because we were originally supposed to put it out in June, and then it got pushed back from June to like August, and then there were deadlines that still weren't met, and then we pushed it back again in November. So, you know, I was happy every time it got pushed back, because I didn't want to rush it out. You know, it's like we could have put it out when we had those original deadlines, but, like, you know, I wasn't happy with the mixes yet, and there was just, I didn't want it to be just thrown out there at the last minute, because I'd already put this much time into it and this much of myself into it. I'm just like, man, I'm not going to rush this. So we'll put it out when it's ready. You know, I'd rather wait whole another year if I have to, and, you know, put it out when it's the right time and when it's ready to be presented to people. You know, so, you know, that's you know, so I think, you know, by the time we put it out, you know, it's finally, you know, it was finished in time, and it had time to breathe and be happy with it. And, you know, we weren't rushing anything to get things, you know, the artwork done and getting the mixes done or anything like that. It's just, it's ready. All right, now let's do it. So, you know, I think, you know, November 10th was a great time to put it out. You know, it's end of the year, you know, so holiday times, all that, you know, so, you know, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Yes, sir. All right. So, do you feel like there's anyone out there now in the industry, whether mainstream or indie, that you think is doing what you're doing with music right now?
I don't really know. Not that I know of. I don't really know of any I mean, there's definitely, I don't know. I mean, but there's so many different influences and from different genres and stuff that my music, comes from. But when you say doing what I'm doing, I would say probably not, because I'm also still, I'm also still working as a jazz musician, and I'll still do another, more jazz recordings down the road. And, I still see that, where my roots are and where my heart is at. But so I haven't really seen anybody, cross over, from jazz to indie or from jazz to rock, or, the way that I did. And not saying that I'm like, super special or anything for doing that. I'm just saying, I don't really know of anyone that's, that's like crossed over genres like that. So, I think in that way, it's different from a lot of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, man. That's why I called you a genius, because you're kind of creating a new lane here with crossing over from, jazz to like indie folk music. It's super cool in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
No doubt, man. Who could you see yourself touring with? Like, what would be the perfect tour for you?
Man, perfect tour for me would be like opening up for the Foo Fighters or something like that.
Yeah.
Even though my music is a lot different from that, but I think there's a lot of heavy rock stuff in there too. But doing that would be my dream, is opening up for the Foo Fighters, or maybe for someone like Ben Folds, who's like a totally different thing. But yeah, that would be my dream, is to do a tour with Ben Folds or the Foo Fighters or something like that.
Yeah.
But I can only dream.
All right, man. Tell us about your best music-related memory from any age.
Oh, that's a good question. Best music-related memory. Well, I can tell you. Okay, that probably that I remember feeling the best about music when the first lesson I had with a dear friend of mine. He's still a friend of mine. His name is Joe Jewell. Incredible guitar player and musician. I started studying with him in my junior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first lesson that I had with him, because I had had other teachers before that, but they were just, he was the first teacher that I had that was the real deal. You know what I mean? Like a real working pro, the real thing. And the first lesson that I had with him, I remember walking out of there just so inspired and so hopeful, like anything was possible for my life, because he had a way of explaining things that that nobody else had showed me before. I all these concepts about theory and jazz harmony and stuff like that. Other teachers had maybe tried to explain to me this stuff, but it just went, completely over my head. And he put it in a way that just made so much sense. It was all of a sudden the light bulb went on. I was like, man, I just remember thinking, I can do this. I could be a professional musician, because I get it now. I was just I was so inspired, and that was when I really started obsessing. That was I remember right after that lesson, that's when I started, going for hours every day, and then I was all right, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I was 100% sure of what I wanted to do with my life. Right. And, when you're that young and to feel that way, it's just your whole life is ahead of you, and you've got the world at your fingertips. And I just remember feeling that way, and I'll never forget it, and I'll be forever grateful to him for that.
Yes, sir. All right, so right now we can see your social media and places where your music is available, but it's a wide open world out there on the internet, and stuff never really stops for artists who are trying to make it and stay in the public view. Even that is almost a 9-to-5 job there.
Yeah.
But are there other ways your fans can reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to me through my website. My website is andy-waddell.music.com. So that's spelled with 2 D's and 2 L's, so WADDELL, andy-waddell.music.com. And, you can, there's a contact submission form. You just go to the bottom of the main page or any page on there, and you can contact me, through there. So, that, and then there's my Facebook and, and all that. But my website would really be the best way to reach me, and you can find all the information about any my other albums and other albums I've played on as a sideman, and pretty much everything that I've done. So it's all on there.
Yes, sir. Cool deal. All right, listening back at Starry Eyes, what does it sound like to you personally?
To me, it kind of sounds like it's kind of chaotic, especially the way it gets towards the end. It's I don't know. I like it starts off with just the acoustic guitar, and then all of a sudden the band comes in roaring, and then you're off and running, and it's kind of to me that's almost kind of like an angry song in a way, because I all the lyrics, the lyrical content and all that, and I just remember the way I was feeling when I wrote it. It was just coming from a place of real anger and being let down and all that, and and then by the end of it, right towards the end of the song, the violins and the strings start playing all these crazy 30-second notes and stuff, and it just gets out of control. And then it calms down. It goes back to just the acoustic guitar, and then the strings come in with these beautiful pads over it. And and that's why to me that sounds like chaos and hope. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to represent, because it's the whole song is kind of there's all this tension, but and then at the end it finally resolves to just this kind of happy, pretty melody. And that's just, and that's what I kind of want to come across, because there's no words at that last part. It's just the music. So it's like you have all the words that kind of say what I'm feeling and, what I, get across what I wanted to say. But and then, it lets the music speak at the end and just kind of give, hopefully give the listener some relief and hope.
Yeah. Okay. So within the music, The Road to Nowhere, can you hear your own autobiography in there? I know there's other stories about other people's lives as well, but what about your own autobiography?
Yeah, it's definitely in there. I mean, it's basically, it's the story, basically the story of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, it's not really, it doesn't really touch on anything in my childhood, but my I honestly I had a great childhood, and so it's really like kind of the story of my life, as being a man, and what I've gone through and where I've come from and what I've become.
Sir. Okay. So, and I know we talked about this earlier in the show, but with each recording, I assume that you can almost still visualize where and who you used to be. So as artists, we can express things as vivid or as cryptic as possible. Some people always wonder, when will an artist move beyond a subject and close the chapter? What is your opinion on this, based off of your own life journey?
When I would close the chat, well, I don't think, that's interesting, because I don't feel like that chapter of my life will ever be closed, because what I went through is something that I have to continually battle every day. Because I'm just naturally, because of how my brain works, I'm, I can be like on the verge of insanity at any second. But, so, I feel like those, the story of the record in that chapter of my life is, yes, it's behind me, but it's never really fully closed, because I still have to deal with those things.
Yeah, you're still going through it.
Exactly. So those are, a lot of those, were maybe specific situations that I went through, but the feelings are things that I still have to battle with every day. But, I would think that, and I've written a lot of other songs, since, putting out, or since recording that, I think, I've noticed that there's still, I still have so much to write about, like, based on those feelings, and there's still so many different people that I've known and that I know now, and maybe that I've even met since then, that I can write about, and that I have written about. Like, I don't think that's a chapter that I think that's something that I can keep going on, for as long as I'm doing this, honestly. But that doesn't mean that everything has to be, a downer, because, I'm kind of going backwards here a little bit, because not every, there actually is one really, there is a song on the record that is, different from all of them. And it's the second to last track of the record. It's called Russ and Beauty. And, that's another big thing about, the change of my life. That's about my current fiance, who I met after all that, and after I started doing the record, or, well, I guess while I was doing the record, because obviously the song's on the record. So anyway, that's just a love song, and then I can write love songs all day long, so, I think that's another thing I'd like to explore more in the future is more exploring the subject of love.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. After the music break, it'll be time for our usual tradition. It is called the Hot Seat, and our fans love this part of the segment, of course, along with the actual interview, but our audience get to hear either Andy perform some vocals, maybe you wrote a poem or have an inspirational speech for us, spoken word. Maybe you can freestyle rap, tell us a joke or a story, or maybe whip out a live instrument. Well, the choice is his, and you never know what these creative minds and vessels will produce in the spotlight. And tonight, we'll find out if Andy has what it takes to be put on the spot, a test of his true artistry, and maybe even some hidden talent. But for right now, we have Andy-Waddell, Starry Eyes, and we'll be right back.
Land put you up with a plan. You were desperate, so you said alright. Then you gave up and died, but you finally felt alive. Was it a lie? Where are we going now? Where are we going now? Positive action gets you stabbed in the back. Now they're coming after you, just to see you react, and you're never gonna get it back. Was it a lie? Where are we going now? Where are we going now? Wasting company dime. Was it the end? Surrender yourself to them, and all that you could have been was an elaborate lie. I'll burn out those starry eyes. I'll burn out the stars from the skies. We're at the end of another day. Tomorrow it'll start up again. I can't see it any other way. Another thing to regret. Was it a lie? Where are we going now? Where are we going now? Wasting your time on the expense of the company dime. Was it the end? Surrender yourself to them, and all that you could have been was an elaborate lie. I'll burn out those starry eyes. I'll burn out the stars from the skies. I'll burn out those starry eyes. I'll burn out the stars from the skies. Starry eyes. I'll burn up the stars from the skies.
Man, what an incredible record by Andy-Waddell. Starry Eyes. Man, the vocals, the performance of the instruments, it was all there. Perfect. Love that song. Fear. Yeah. So the interesting thing about fear is that it should not be feared. Fear can be a very useful and powerful tool. It gives us additional energy in new and unfamiliar situations. Guys, it sharpens our senses, for Christ's sake. It helps us to focus. It helps us to avoid dangerous situations. The problem with fear comes when we begin to fear being afraid. Fear of fear. You ever heard of that? For example, imagine that you have stage fright, the fear of speaking in front of large audiences. I'm an introvert. And we have 37,000 live listeners, sometimes on a regular basis. Yeah, I was very bad at public speaking. Hey. So, yeah, this is a step, to conquer my own fear of being vocal in front of a crowd, right? So, that stage fright is probably one of the most common fears. Now, suppose you find yourself in front of a large audience and suddenly a fear overcomes you. What is it that fear? Or what is that fear? Are you afraid of the audience? No. You are afraid of your fear. Carry it a step further. Imagine that you turn down a good job offer because it might involve some public speaking. Do you fear the job? No. Do you fear the public speaking? No. You fear the fear of the fear. Wow. Yeah, fear can get very deep when we're afraid of it. The best way to overcome fear is to do the thing that you fear. Hence how this podcast was birthed. And the best way to do that is to accept your fear as something positive and useful. Use the heightened energy and awareness your fear gives you to help you through a fear situation. That's what the fear is there for, to help you cope with the thing that you fear. Don't fear your fear. Use it for growth and accomplishment. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and bring the man of the hour back. Andy, you're back live with us in our hot seat What do you have for us?
All right. Well, how about a funny story?
That works. We love stories.
All right. Because I can do some freestyle rapping, but I don't know if I can do it without any profanity.
You can curse. You can curse. Yeah.
Oh.
Internet radio.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. But I still might. I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody. But let's see. And then there's also the option of I could play something, but I don't think that'll pick up very well over the phone. So anyway, I'll tell you a funny story. This is a true story. Once upon a time, I worked at Disneyland, and I worked at Disneyland actually for 2.5 years as a musician in a band called Five and Dime. And this band is still a band that's performing there. It's still, it's still going. And I was one of the first musicians to be hired for that band. They've had re-auditions and stuff, like dozens of times since then. And anyway, so going into the audition, I remember I did it because I never wanted a gig playing in Disneyland. That was never like something that I wanted to do. So, but somebody that I know, he's actually he's really heavily involved in like the musical direction and stuff at Disneyland, and he called me and he says, "Hey Andy, I just thought you should know they're having they're holding some auditions for Disneyland for a new band. I think you should do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Why not?" So I was kind of on the fence about it, and but at the last minute I decided to do it, which is a miracle that I even got there, because when I showed up for the audition, it was probably at like 10 in the morning or something, and they had like something like 2 or 3 rounds of auditions. I showed up for like the last round, like the third round of auditions.
Oh wow!
And I didn't really care at all, and I showed up, completely. I was coming off a bender, man. I was completely hungover. I was out of my mind. But I showed up. I kind of almost did it as a joke. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll still do this Disney audition. Who cares? Whatever. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'll just mess with them." So I went into the audition, and it was the craziest audition I've ever had. Because most auditions, you play some music for them or whatever, and that's it. So, but there were all these different parts of the audition. So the first thing was they had me sight read some music with a rhythm section behind me. I did that. And then they're like, "All right, now read this script." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, you gotta read this script." And then they gave me a microphone, and I had to, read this script. And so I was like, "All right, this is I can't take this seriously." So I did the whole thing in like a Mickey Mouse voice, something like, "Here we got Slinky Joe on the drums. I tell you, give him a hand, boys." "Oh yeah, that's right." And I did all these like goofy voices. I did this like Mickey Mouse voice. Like, "I'm kidding, come on back here. I'll show them how to play the drums. That's how we do it. All right." And I was doing stuff like that. And believe it or not, they loved it. I was like, I didn't want the gig. I just did it. I was like, all right, I can't take this seriously, so I'm gonna make a joke out of it. They loved it. And then they had me sing some stuff, and then. And I was like, man, I can't sing. And, all right, but whatever. So they had me sing something, it was like, maybe it was like Blue Skies. And so, and they had the band behind me. So I just sang it in this voice, like, "Blue skies, smile at me, girl. Another blue sky, gonna be, girl, open the do." And they loved it. So, believe it or not, I actually get the call back. Like a few days later, like, "Hey, we want to hire you. Congratulations." Like, are you kidding me? And then I'm like, okay. But then they told me what it paid. I was like, oh, okay, that's good money. Yeah. So I took the gig, and I went on to be a performer at Disneyland. And but they made a big mistake. They didn't know who they were messing with when they hired me, because I'm telling you, they got exactly what they signed up for. Because when I first started the gig, it was when they reopened they reopened the California Adventure Park, and they hired a bunch of new bands like for the new park, and so I we all thought that it was just like a summer gig, because like the auditions were like in April, and then the gig started from like the end of May, and then so we were like booked for like till the end of August, and so I thought it was just going to be a summer gig. So for like that first summer, I was actually like a good boy, for the most part. Like I did it the way they wanted me to do it. But then the gig kept going after that. Then they wanted to keep us, because all the Disney fans, they loved the Five and Dime Band, and it was like a big hit in the park. So so we went on to keep doing it. And after that summer, I couldn't take it anymore, man. I was done. I at this point now, like I didn't want to quit. I wanted to get fired because I never had, because Disney was almost like, even though it was playing music, it was like a real job. You got to clock in with you got to clock in with your card and stuff, and you got to clock out, and you got to clock for lunch, and all that stuff. There's like a completely new experience for me. I've never had a job before, So I just hated it, and they had someone like myself. I can't. It's hard for me to do something the same way. I mean, I'm a jazz musician, for Christ's sake. I don't do anything the same every time. But they wanted. It was a hardcore gig, man. Like there was a script. I had lines I had to say, and the way that it was, in the show is. I played a character named T-Bone, and so I'm playing the character. I mean, it was half like an acting gig, because I had lines I had to say, I had to sing. There was a part in the show where I had to like take a woman up from the audience and like seduce her and like bring her up and like sing to her and stuff like that. Like, it was a lot for me. So, anyway, asking me to do something the same every time, I mean, I could hold that down for about 3 months, and then that's it. By that time, I'm so bored. I'm so done with it. I hate it, because when you go in for a shift, you go in, it's like a 7-hour shift, and you do the show like 5 or 6 times, and they want you to do it the same way every time, and so yeah, I mean, it's hardcore. You got to play it the same way. You got to sing it the same way. You got to do the lines the same way. But I was just done, man. I couldn't do it anymore. So I started taking liberties with it. Oh man, and they hated it. I was like, I'm telling you, I'm a goddamn legend over at Disneyland. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm still friends with a lot of people there, and they say that I'm like infamous over there. And I bet you can find this stuff on YouTube somewhere. I'm not sure because I haven't checked. But like I know people were filming the show all the time, and if you look up Five and Dime on YouTube, you're gonna find like thousands of videos. So in there somewhere, there's got to be videos of me just being a jackass, because I would do insane stuff. Like first I would do all these like duck dances. I would act like a sumo wrestler, and like I act like I have a limp in my leg. I would even pretend that I had Tourette syndrome at certain points. I would act like I have like a nervous twitch, and I'd be up there and like we're playing like 1920s and 30s like swing music. It's like it's nice like happy Disney jazz, and so you're hearing this like and behind that you're hearing just this crazy guy going because. There were mics on our face, because like I said, we had lines and I had to sing and stuff. So there's a mic attached to my face. So through all this chaos, you're hearing like me grunting and yelling and screaming throughout the entire part, because that's coming out on the speakers and stuff. And there was this one part which is my favorite part of every show, and I even got this bass player that was on the gig, and I think he was like I'm not really sure, but I think he, might have been autistic or maybe probably more Asperger's or something like that. But I got him to go along with everything that I was doing. So he was like my partner in crime over there, except he didn't get in trouble with it like I did, because I was just completely insane about it. Oh yeah, not to mention I was obliterated half the time there too. So we're there supposed to entertain people. Hey, I wasn't there to entertain anyone else. I was there to entertain myself. So, we're like on ground level. It's not like we're up on a stage. We're on ground level. So we come out on a little car playing the music, and then I would get out of the car, and, we get out of the car and we perform the show just on the street. So we're at ground level with with the audience members. So I'd be going up to people, screaming in their faces, doing like the freaking chicken pee-pee dance, and kicking my legs out and stuff, scaring the shit out of little kids. I mean, like, I was a monster. I made kids cry. And,
wow.
I mean, some of them thought it was hilarious. Most of the time they were laughing, but yeah, I definitely deeply disturbed some people. And it took me 2.5 years to finally get fired. And
wow.
Because, we were protected by the musicians union. So they had to really build up a case against me. But the best part of the show, and this was what I would look forward to every day going in there. So it's like on one of the first songs that we do, it was on, I think it was Sitting on Top of the World. So it's, it's I'm sitting on top of the world. Bow, bow. So it's like this cheesy, this cheesy swing tune. And like, there's this part in the song where like, it's like a break. And then, the instrumentation was, there's like guitar, a singer, drummer, and like a upright bass and a saxophone and a trumpet player. So there's this part of the song where like, there's choreography. So we're like, supposed to be doing a certain choreography. I would always go off the choreography and like, do it. Too bad we're not on video right now, because if I were to display this for you, you would lose it. You wouldn't believe it. But that's what I'm saying. You should probably look this on, if anyone cares, you should, to see something crazy, you should look this up on YouTube and see if you could find, like, Disney musician goes nuts or something. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't checked on there, but it's got to be buried in there somewhere. It's got to be. There's got to be some of this. But that's part of the show. So this nice little break, and the horns, it goes like this. It's like dun, 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 and there's this big hit. So everyone does this big hit, and right there, in that spot, I would just go completely ape shit. And I would get this bass player kid to do it with me too. So you imagine these two guys just screaming on this part, and it would just it would scare people. And not to mention, there's like, we're being like, it's the most uncomfortable performance situation that you can imagine, because while you're performing and trying to make people happy and all this stuff, you've got someone there basically grading you. They call them stage managers, and they're up there like taking notes on you and like shaking your head anytime you do something wrong. So believe me, they were shaking their head at me every time, but especially on this one part. So here it comes. This one part's coming, and I would kick my foot out, and I would jump up in the air, and you go bump, 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 hey up. So I would do a different sound every time. Just hey up. It's just crazy, something. So that's where I would, find a way for my creativity to come out, because, all right, what creative, like, dying sound can I come up with this time?
Yeah.
So yeah, look it up, see if it's on there. If you find it, let me know, because I'd like to see it, because But yeah, it was quite a shit show, to say the least.
I'll definitely try to look that up.
True story.
Oh man, that is incredible. I have got to look that video up. Hopefully somebody was decent enough to put it on YouTube.
I hope so. I mean, God, man, because I did it every day. It's not like I just did it one time. I did it every day that I was there. So it's got to be up there somewhere.
Yeah. All right, man. That was great. This is our tradition open floor for you. is there something that you would like to communicate or say to our listeners out there that we didn't get a chance to talk about in this interview?
Man, I would just say, to anyone out there who's an artist, just don't give up on it. You never know what's around the corner. You never know, when inspiration may come. I'm glad I was close to giving up, and I'm really thankful that I didn't. So for, if there's anyone out there going through a similar thing, or if you know of somebody who is, man, I encourage you all to not give up. Keep pushing for what you want, and keep creating no matter what, because you never know what's going to pop. And there's no better feeling in the world, no matter what happens with it, whether you become famous or if nothing at all. There's nothing more satisfying than creating something out of nothing and seeing it come to life, and having it, creating your own music and having it performed by great musicians and stuff like that. That's just been, that's just the best thing that I can ever imagine. So anyone out there that's an artist, man, just keep at it. And I just want to thank everybody who's listening. Thank you for listening to my story, and thank you for checking out my music, and thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure, man.
Definitely, likewise, man. And I hope we cross paths again in the future. Maybe get you back on the show to hear this freestyle rap of yours.
Okay.
All right, man. You have a great one, man. Andy-Waddell, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Wow! Do you have an idea that needs to get out there? PitchYourIdeas.org is looking for people with ideas to get to the industry.
PitchYourIdeas.org is looking for people with great ideas to get to the industry and to the public. Do you have ideas that need to get out there? Go to PitchYourIdeas.org and get your ideas out there.
PitchYourIdeas.org is looking for people with great ideas to get to the industry and to the public. Do you have ideas that need to get out there? Go to PitchYourIdeas.org and get your ideas out there. PitchYourIdeas.org is looking for people who don't know what to do with your talent or ideas. People who have ideas, inventions, movie scripts, TV scripts, and ideas that will entertain, inform, or make things better should go to PitchYourIdeas.org.
Thank you, my Vigilantes family, as always, for checking out my podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. All episodes are available for free download, and you can grab that from either Spreaker.com/only1media group, iTunes, YouTube, any app that's on the Google Play or iTunes store, or our website. And that goes from every single episode that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music or a particular guest or send something for me to play, email it to theradio@only1mediagroup.com. If it's music, please label it by artist and title. Here's my disclaimer. We are genre free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay but facts alone. And actually, you can scratch all of that because all of my opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show, so deal with it. Nah, just kidding. On behalf of myself, Dini-Mussolini, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word, because sharing is caring. We stepped up our game just for you guys and our guests to make sure that you have the best experience here on our show. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, as well as Spreaker. We always follow back. That is the number one rule. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely great at just doing that. Avoid being too comfortable, because you're messing with your potential when you do that. Peace and have a good night. If you'd like to request music or send something for us to play, email it to theradio@only1mediagroup.com. Here's my disclaimer. We are genre-free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay, but facts alone. And actually, you can scratch all of that because all of my opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show. Something you got to deal with. Nah, just kidding. On behalf of myself, Dini-Mussolini, I appreciate you guys for tuning in either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word because sharing is caring. And also special thanks to our guests for joining us. We stepped up our game just for you guys and our guests to make sure you have the best experience here on our show. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr. We are all over. Just connect with us and we do follow back. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. This is a Seventh Sign Regime Rebirth Worldwide Syndicate exclusive.